Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, so we're going to start.
This conference is being recorded.
Okay, so I wanted to speak tonight about what was Mechadish this year in terms of Purim. First, I want to say L'chaim. L'chaim, we should all share in Simcha. And I'm going to turn off the bottom third thing so you don't get that. Let's see if I can turn it off. Just a second. Oh, it's off. Okay, good. Get it off. No, not yet. Okay, good. Okay, so this year, what I came up with, what seemed to me, is that there is a special quality in the Megillah to the word Shaveh. The word Shaveh appears 3 times in the Megillah. It appears when Haman attacks Am Yisrael in front of Achashverosh, and it appears there. It says it appears when Achashverosh, when Haman is about to have his downfall, where it says that Kol Zeinenu Shaveh, and it appears again towards when Haman does have his downfall, when Esther says Achashverosh Eina Tzor Shaveh B'Nezek HaMelech. There's a fundamental concept here. The concept of Shaveh. Concept of Shaveh. No, keep putting this farmer on the table over there. The concept of Shaveh, it literally means equal. But the highest midah one can accomplish in this world, and the midah which Mordechai represents, as we shall see, is the midah of Hishtavus. Hishtavus is the midah of equanimity. Everything is, to a person, is the same. No matter what happens, a person is constant in what they do, believe, constant in what they do, constant in their attitude. And Baal Shem Tov stresses this midah a great deal. Baal Shem Tov in Tzavos Rivash, the very second piece, actually, says, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tomid. Shivisi lashon hishtavus. Shivisi means equanimity. Now, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tomid, we normally understand to mean, I equate it as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in front of me. But the Baal Shem Tov is saying that Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tomid is the basis rather of Hishtavus, meaning b'chol davar ha'ma'ora, any thing which occurs, ha'kol shavet, so it doesn't make a difference in whether the people praise him, or mevazin or denigrate him, v'chein b'chol shar dvarim, and so to all other matters, v'chein b'chol achilos, and so to anything he eats, ben shochel ma'adonim, if he eats delicacies, ben shochel shar dvarim, or eats other things, ha'kol yishre be'enov, everything should be equivalent in his eyes. Since the midah, the kind of equanimity of Hishtavus, removes that Yetzer Hara from him altogether, it doesn't matter anything to him. And everything which happens to him, Yomar Halo Zehu Me'ito Yizbarach. It's all from Hashem. And if he decides it's appropriate, those meaning certainly to me it's appropriate. The Kol Kavanasi Elishem Shemayim. And everything you do should be for the sake of heaven. Nothing matters to you personally. This is a very high madrega to accomplish. He says it several times over. It's interesting here. They put it in Simon Vav. He says, "You should take care of one of the high members of the higher world. Shouldn't matter to anybody who lives in this world. Kikom Kula, because all of this world is like a speck of mustard seed. Vis-a-vis the higher world. It shouldn't matter in your eyes. If people love you, or you snoo, or detest you, because their love or detestation is meaningless. And a person shouldn't pay attention to his typhus, etc. Then another final place in the Baal Shem Tov is here, Siman Yud, in Tzavos Rivash, Klal Gadol Me'abesh Zal. There's a great principle from the Baal Shem Tov. Hishtavus, equanimity. So it doesn't matter, in Yasikul Cheshediya, if they think you lack knowledge, you're an ignoramus, or you know the entire Torah. The Davar HaGoyim was there, what's a catalyst for this? Hadvekus Babari Tadir, constant Dvekus in Hashem. Shemachmas Tiras Hadvekus, because the Dvekus distracts you, Ein lo pnai, you don't have time, lachshov b'dvarim elu, to think about these matters. Shetoru Tomi l'dabik atzmo l'malo b'yitbarach. Because his tirda, his distraction, is not tirdas of this world, but the tirda of connecting himself to HaKadosh Baruch. So the midah of Hishtavus, says the Baal Shem Tov, is a very, very great and fundamental midah. I had difficulty why the Mesilas Yesharim doesn't have the midah of Hishtavus as one of his midos in the ladder towards Ruach HaKodesh. The Mesilas Yesharim seems to bring down all the fundamental midos. So I found Rav Tzuriel in Yotos HaMusar. He says that the midah of Hishtavus is the manifestation of the midah of Anova. In other words, a person who has true humility has true Hishtavus, because nothing matters to him personally. The things matter to you personally if you have a sense of gaiva, a sense of your own self-importance and significance. But this is not the case. If a person doesn't have that, then a person has the midah of Hishtavus. Now, he brings down a Chavos Avav. Chavos Avav is a very famous Chavos Avav, actually, from Shar Yichud HaMaaseh, where he brings down Amar HaChassid. The pious one said, Hatradas atzmi, to be distracted by myself, meaning to have a famous name in this world, which is my personal greatest Yitzhara. Himikras Bura is a definite shortcoming. The Chet V'Tov and repulsive sin. And they already said about one of the pious people. Shama Chaveri said to his friend, Hayim Nishtavesa? Have you accomplished equanimity? Omar, he said, Be'ezinian, what matter? Omar, Hayim Shavim Beinecha Hatila Vaginui? Are there equivalents in your eyes, praise and denigration? Omar, he said, well, no. Omar, he said, in Cain, if that's the case, Teremigato Leheseg. You have not accomplished anything. L'chein Tishtadel, L'aitakil L'dargazu. And therefore, I'm not sure it means not anything, but you haven't accomplished what you're supposed to accomplish. And therefore you have to make an effort. Maybe you get this madrega. Ki ana lo b'dargos hachasidim, because it's the utmost in the levels of pious people, the siyach hamudos, and should be the pinnacle of your desire to accomplish in this world. Now, it's interesting, Rav Tzuriel, being a contemporary Jewish thinker, goes on later on, he says, don't get confused between Hishtavus, equanimity, and what's called the Tazbich Mechitut in modern Hebrew, which means an inferiority complex. That's not Anova, and that's not Hishtavus. Somebody who has Anova, who's humble in the Torah sense, is always happy, because everything that happens to him is good for him, and it's okay with him, like Nochem Ish Gamzu, Gamzu Teva, because he doesn't see himself as requiring personally more than that, as long as he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And he's happy, regardless of what's coming to him. As long as what's coming from him is the right thing, it doesn't matter to him what's coming to him. Nothing is coming to him. It really doesn't matter. But somebody who has a inferiority complex is always sad, because in his heart he's really haughty, and he wants other people to recognize him. And he's always upset that he's suffering from lack of recognition. Sounds like me very much. Oh well, so that's what the Shevet HaMusar brings up, one of the early Muslims. If you see a person who's always sad, you should know that the lack of bitachon causes him that sadness. Don't live in his neighborhood. Don't be connected to him, because he might take you away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So obviously, if a person has bitachon, they're all different sides of the same midah. A person has trust in Hashem, everything is okay, Hishtavus. Or this is based on Anova, having a sense of humility. And then a person has no sadness. A person is not sad because there's no, he can be sad if he's not doing the right thing himself, but he's not sad because of what happens to him. He doesn't take into account what happens on the outside. So the idea of Hishtavus is the idea of Mordechai. When Mordechai comes to the situation with Haman, lo kam v'lo za mimenu. It doesn't matter. Everybody else is bowing down. And there's a tremendous peer pressure on him, tremendous degree of danger involved. Mordechai doesn't change his hanhaga, the way he conducts himself. There's a precedent in this. Earlier in Golus Babel, it says, Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, when they went to the fiery furnace to be burned, they went, Chitu b'sar v'leon. They were wearing their, assuming that they were listening to Rosh Yeshiva, their frocks and hamburgs, assuming they were Hasidic Rebbes, they were wearing their bekishas and shtreimels. They went with the utmost dignity. Why? Because a person who is truly in a state of Hishtavus, no matter what, if he's on the verge of a horrible death, doesn't matter. That too is the state in which, from his perspective, he should approach it like any other thing in life, which is Ovid Hashem. He approaches it as another form of Ovid Hashem. We are not anywhere that Madrega. Nobody in the Torah of Mordechai was at Madrega except for Mordechai. But that is the Madrega which Mordechai represents to us. The Madrega of Hishtavus. That's what Mordechai it was, and that's what Mordechai remains for us as a symbol of. Nothing changes no matter what the danger. And that's true even on the flip side. When Mordechai is given the great bride, by the way, Ish in Gematria is the same as Shaveh, and I think we could actually make something big about that, but leave it for now. But he goes back afterwards to sackcloth Taniso. It says afterwards he goes back to sackcloth and his fasting. If that's the right thing to be doing right now, it doesn't matter that I just got all this honor. Don't pat myself on the back. I go and I do what I'm supposed to be doing at that time. So, this also leads us to where the first place in Tanakh, the word Shaveh is mentioned. And the word Shaveh is mentioned in the first place in Tanakh in conjunction with first war, which involves Amalek. Now, we normally understand that the first war to involve Amalek. I asked him this morning, claim again. It's my favorite. It's Lafroig. That's whoever buy me scotch. That's the scotch to get me. But if you look at, I asked him on the Rabbeinu this morning, where's the first place in Tanakh Amalek appears in the context of a war? So he said, of course, B'Shalach. But it's not. The first place Amalek appears in the context of a war is in Lech Lecha. In Lech Lecha, we have the war of the 5 Malachim against the 4 Malachim. And the 5 Malachim against the 4 Malachim, the war goes into a place called Stei HaMaleki. Now, most of the Farshim say it's called Stei HaMaleki, not that it was then, at that time, part of the stay. It was part of the. Just a second, I see I have here a message from Ron that I should give him an invite. So give me a second. Do that 1 second. Okay, so it's not that not that there was it's called at that time Stei Amaleki, but rather that eventually Amalek would be living there, and therefore the Torah is talking about Al Shema Asim, referring to the future now. But the Ramban says differently. He says that there was perhaps he says there was a person named Amalek at that time, and it was his field, and the later Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, was named after this Amalek as a sign of respect. By the way, the Yerushalmi Yevamah says Haman was not a descendant of Agog necessarily, but he called himself Agog because he liked the philosophy. Here too, you could say that Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, even though he wasn't related to Amalek the first, but Eliphaz liked philosophy, so he named his child Amalek as well. So that's the first place Amalek appears in Tanakh. And that's the first place in Amalek appears in the context of a war. And when that war is resolved, they come together. Everybody meets together in a place called Emek Shaveh Hu Emek HaMelech. Emek Shaveh is the valley which was equal, meaning according to Pashut Pshat. It was smooth, but it's also called Emek HaMelech. So these are two words which are significant in the Megillah. Emek Shaveh and Emek HaMelech. What's going on here? So fascinating thing is that the Medrash says, Yalkut Shimoni, says that in Emek Shaveh, Emek HaMelech, the Ummah Olam came together, they built a big platform, they cut down cedar trees, Arrazim, in order to build it, and they were Mamlech Avraham Avinu there. They made him the king. They wanted to make him their God. Avraham Avinu said, I'm not God, I represent God, I'm not God, but they made him their king, and they made him, of course, the priest as well, where he took the place of Melchizedek at that point. The other Yalkut, in Esther, which says that the eight Gavoa Chamishim Amma, which Haman took to hang Mordechai on, was an Erez, also a cedar tree. So another connection. So what's interesting the cedar tree in the cedars in Bereshis and the cedars in the Megillah? The cedar in Bereshis was cut. The cedar in the Megillah was very tall and uncut. The Gemara says, "Only Adam but should always be soft, pliant, like a reed, and not tough and hard like a cedar tree." So the question obviously is why we have tzaddikim who are nimshal eres, tzaddik katomer yifrak eres bavoni yizge. A tzaddik is like an eres tree, it's like a cedar tree. It seems to be a bad thing to be a cedar, but the pshat is that there is the good cedar is the one which cuts itself down, the one which knows to be humble at the same time. In other words, when we give the musar to the Mitzorah at the end of his period of tzaras, we take Azov and Erez. Chazal say Erez is the tallest of trees, Azov is the lowest of bushes. We combine them together. You can be both together. You can't be an Erez alone. You can be an Erez with Azov. You can be an Erez, which is cut down. You can't be an Erez which just sticks up and doesn't cut itself, diminish itself down. Haman represented an Erez which doesn't get cut. Just a strong, tall, powerful tree, which when it has its downfall, it has a very big downfall. The Erez in which they were Mordechai, Avram, those were cut arazim. Very different. They were cut down to size. Now, Emek Shaveh, who Emek HaMelech. In order to, the antidote to Amalek is Emek Shaveh. Because what does Amalek represent to us? Amalek represents, Chazal, the Svarim say, Seder Shomikre, an order of happenstance, of coincidence. A strange thing, right? It's paradoxical. What's an order of happenstance? But the idea is that in terms of Amalek, there is no constancy. There is no equanimity. There's always the idea of finding the way to change things for me to promote my agenda. And it's important to know, which is that Haman was a Maimon. Haman obviously believed in God. Otherwise, the Goyrel doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, maybe the Megillah don't make sense. But he believed that you could usurp the system, undermine the system. And his great flaw was his lack of equanimity, as displayed by where he says, Kol Zeinenu Shaveli. He said he has Kvod Osro, Ro Barav, he has fame, he has wealth, he has a great family. It's not enough. Because he's Mordechai, and Mordechai doesn't get up from him, in front of him. That's the epitome of a lack of equanimity. That's a very bad midah, which most of us have, which is if everything, 95% of things is going good, but 5% is going bad, or 99% is going good, but 1% is going bad, bothers the heck out of us. Lack of equanimity. And that was ultimately Haman's downfall. That was what he caused his aspirations, and that's what caused his downfall. And the idea is that Emek Shaveh, who Emek HaMelech. Let's say a HaMelech. HaMelech, we know in the Megillah, HaMelech Stam is Melech Machi Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaMelech is the same gematria as Haman, and it's either Haman or HaMelech. It's either 95% this, 95 this way, 95 that way. You can't. There is no middle ground, so to speak, although we'll talk about there being a middle ground in a moment. But Haman and HaMelech are the same thing. So therefore, you have same number. So therefore you have a choice, either this way or that way. Now, the idea is, what causes it to be an Emek HaMelech? Emek Shaveh. What's Shivyon? Hishtavus, equanimity. But there are other aspects to it as well. The Ohev Yisrael, the Apter Rebbe, says a beautiful idea. He says that Shaveh is Rosh Tevos She'amar V'Hoya Ha'olam. Baruch She'amar V'Hoya Ha'olam. Now, She'amar V'Hoya Ha'olam is obviously represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but there's another aspect to it, which is She'amar v'hoya ha'olam. Olam, we know, is the term used for word because it's correlated to the term he'elim, something which is concealed, not apparent. And this world is a world of he'elim, where things are not apparent. So, but what we have to believe is that in that world of concealment and difficulty and lack of understanding, She'amar v'hoya olam. Hashem was the one who said it should be this way and made it this way, and He has a plan, and everything which He does is good. It's interesting that I think the author does say that She'amar v'hoya olam, not She'diber v'hoya olam. She'amar v'hoya olam because She'amar is midas harachamim. She'diber is midas adin. So there is this he'elim also has an aspect of rachamim to it, but that's getting too far afield for now. But the point is that if a person approaches everything with the aspect She'amar v'hoya olam, Hashem is the one who said and made this concealment, and He has a plan in it, that leads to the midah of Hishtavus. That's balance. Now, what does balance mean? So, of course, we all know the Rambam, the famous Rambam. Balance is where the golden mean. The ideal trait of a person is to have a balance, neither too much this way nor too much that way, but rather a golden balance, a golden mean, the balance in the middle. That's also a characteristic of Hishtavus. A person is not too much this way, not too much that way. You know, there's a famous comment which Bali Musar make, which is that every person sees himself as the perfectly balanced person, right? Everybody to the right of me is too frum, everybody to the left of me is not frum enough. I'm perfect. Nobody, but obviously that's because we don't like critiquing ourselves. But the idea is, yes, a person should, ideally speaking, be in that balance where he's found the proper balance between this and that, and is walking in the middle. Now, it's interesting, you know, I just thought of this right now, which is there's an avodah zarah of Molech. Molech is when you carry a child between two fires. It's considered, even though burn the child at the end, it's considered to be a terrible form of avodah zarah. Why? Because this too represents a different form of malchus, a different form of shaveh, but the shaveh of avodah zarah. Okay, that's just off on a tangent. It requires more analysis. Sorry about that. But be that as it may, so now we understand another thing about Amalek, which is in Parsha Zachor. The Parsha before Parsha Zachor and Parsha Kiteitzei is the Parsha Mishkalos, the Parsha of weights and measures. And Rashi brings down there that with when Am Yisrael sins with weights and measures, that's when Amalek has the capacity to come and attack. Amalek has a power over us. What's the connection? It seems like a relatively minor Avera, right? I mean, it's big, don't get me wrong. It's Gezel and Ono and lots of other nasty stuff. But, you know, it's not one of the capital crimes, weights and measures. But the pshat, I think, is that Amalek comes whenever there's no Hishtavus, when we're not balanced. And that which indicates that we lack balance in a graphic way is that our weights and measures are wrong, are imbalanced. It's not just in ourselves that we sanction an imbalance. We do it to others. All of society becomes unbalanced. I was thinking also that this is the pshat in and Hamantash. Every year, trying to come up with a different pshat in Hamantash, and this year I was just thinking that the Hamantash you have to hold up from one corner, because you hold up the corner, it looks like a scale, right? You have the balance on the top, and then you have the two sides, and if you hold it perfectly straight, so then that's Hishtavus. You hold it this way or that way, that's a lack of Hishtavus. This requires a drink, again, fine. So therefore, in order to avoid the pitfall of the inappropriate weights and measures, we actually have the Hamantash with its 3 points, it's balanced, and it has to retain that balance in order for us to avoid that Amalek. It's interesting that after Amalek also, which Shlomo Fisher points this out, here comes the parasha of Chidavo, of Bikurim. And Bikurim represents Hakoras HaTov. And a person who is in state of Hishtavus does have a danger. The danger is, this is not his word, but I was inspired by seeing this in him. the danger in Hishtavus is that you're not going to be Makir Tov. Because you're going to say, well, it's not that person doing it to me, it's Hashem, right? Or it's not, I don't have to be thankful to that person because it comes from Hashem, not from that person. So that is a major pitfall. That's the danger also, which can come from the Midah of Hishtavus, which has to be avoided by cultivating the Midah of Hakaras HaTov to other people. That's important. And part of Anova is not just Anova vis-a-vis Hashem, which could be, it was a basic to Hishtavus, but also Anova, humility to other people, and seeing other people as also being significant and good, and having a good relation towards me, for which I have to be thankful to them. The Purim-Hishtavus has this famous idea about Anova. He says, a person should always look at everybody else as being superior to themselves. If they're really superior, then they're really superior. And if they're inferior, if perhaps they have less potential than I do, and they're accomplishing more relative to their potential than I am accomplishing relative to my potential. So therefore, I should assume that anybody's better than me. And I'm and that's good for cultivating humility. Anyway, so coming back, so we see Emek Shaveh Emek HaMelech. Hishtavus is the midah which Haman initially comes to exploit against Am Yisrael. They're saying, Ein LaMelech Ein Shaveh LaHanicham. It means that they are in a lack of Hishtavus. Remember, whenever it says Hamelech Stam Megillah, Melech Malchim Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they come and they say to Haman comes and says to Hashem, Yesh Amecha Mefuzar Mefura Ben Ha'amim. What does it mean that they're Mefuzar Mefura Ben Ha'amim? It means that they no longer have that balance which you gave to them. Rashi says, I forget what the Lashon, where the Lashon is, but this also has commentation. There's a Parshas Mishpatim, the end of Parshas Mishpatim, where it says that Hashem, something about that the mitzvahs are for you. It says, Rashi says, Zu Izun mitzvos. Mitzvahs give a balance. By the way, Izun mitzvos. Oznei Haman. The Hebrews are for Hamantashen. Another Chaim of that. So the Hamantash represents Izun mitzvos. Oznei Haman. Haman came to create imbalance. The Izun mitzvahs are meant to give us balance. That, of course, goes back to the Rambam, the even keel, the golden mean. But the idea is, they're scattered. They're not getting along together. That's what the underlying message is. And they'll say, they don't have that Izun mitzvos. They're not Shaveh. They're not Hishtavus. Get rid of them. They're not the people you meant them to be. They don't have that madrega which you meant them to be. But Haman himself messes himself up. Says, he shows that he doesn't have the meaning of Hishtavus either. You want to supplant the Jewish people, that's nice, but if you don't have that meaning, then you're going to fall yourself. And that led to his Mapala, to the great Erez on which he himself was hung. The great Erez, which is the antithesis of Emek Shaveh, Emek HaMelech. And afterwards, Esther exploits the same terminology that Haman used. So actually, I really never understood these words until I saw this here, preparing for the shir. It means that Haman is not Shaveh. Haman is not Shaveh. I wouldn't have said anything because it's not worth dealing with him. But I think the make up shot here also is Haman lacks Hishtavus. Haman was the one who said that Am Yisrael lacks Hishtavus. He's much worse, and therefore we can eliminate him. On the contrary, he's the Midash, with that which Midash might be well. If you came and tied it on Hishtavus, we came and tied it on your Hishtavus. And getting back to the Rivash, I saw the Imre Emes says, and I don't even remember embarrassed to say that I don't remember one word which is important for the Imre Emes, the Sas Emes' son. Let's see if I have it here. No, I don't. I do not have. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, the Imre Emes says a fascinating thing. The Imre says in Shushan Purim, he says, Well, first, this is actually I have this in my on my blog in the Marmakayos of tonight. First, Degamach Ephraim was about Shem's grandson. He says that in this Jewish Purim, he says Malchus Tam Hainu Malchus Shamayim. When it says Malchus, it means Malchus Shamayim Sheyira, which is all of Hashem. Yesh Adam Shukshoim B'nei Hamelech, when a person stands before a king, Derech Moshe B'Torah before Hashem, Derech Moshe B'Torah Tfilas, for example, in davening and in learning. Azu Yoim B'nei Hamelech, and he has all of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when he leaves the king, had lots of tzrachim to do his own needs, or shocheach, that he forgets the Yiras HaMelech. V'lo chein yikra tachlis, it's not the purpose. Right? Like it says Shulchan Aruch, Shivisi, the first Ramon, Shulchan Aruch, Shivisi Hashem l'negdi tomi. Zeh klal godav v'maos tzadikim is a great principle in the levels of tzadikim. Ki mole kol haaretz kavodo, because the entire world is full of his honor, of glory. Then noifel yira b'achnom ibnei Hashem. That way you have awe and submission for Hashem is all from the Ramah. V'hu shemaramed shemadrega zuyu b'Mordechai HaTzadik. And then Mordechai had this madrega. Mordechai yotza milifnei hamelech v'bushmal. Even when he left the king, and apitz yoso min hamelech, Gakim b'chinas malchus, b'chinas bush malchus and b'chinas yira. In other words, Shavisi Hashem and Talmud means that you take the malchus Hashem wherever you go. Mordechai yotza milifnei hamelech v'bush malchus. That's a beautiful Degam Echon. And then there's the Imre Emes. The Imre Emes says, "V'atasim Esther's Mordechai Beis Haman." Esther placed Mordechai over the house of Haman. So he quotes the famous Gemara. Esau, it says, "V'bnei banav shel Haman lamdu Torah b'Bnei Brak." The grandchildren of Haman learned Torah b'Bnei Brak. And the Gemara in Yaakov says that that's Rabbi Shmuel bar Shilas. And Shilas, that Rizal says, is Rosh Tevos. Shilas is Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tomid. Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tomid is an acronym is Shilas. And that more about Shilas obviously was in that state of Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tomid, because to be from Bnei Banav Shalaman, Shalom the Torah, you have to be Masakin with Haman's Chisara. You have to adopt the meat of Mordechai. And therefore you have to be in the state of Hishtavus, which comes from Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tomid. You know, Shuvah Shilas was a famous Malamed. And it says that one time he was taking a break, and a rabbi, I think, approached him and said, "Oh, you're not doing your malacha properly." He says that I've been doing everything properly for 25 years, and even now I'm taking a short break, and it's all about chinuch. I'm thinking about how to do chinuch better. So no matter where he was, what he was, he was constantly concerned with what he was supposed to be doing, as opposed to getting distracted by any distractions. Hishtavus means he was focused, and he goes on to say that he of course is Gemara 13 years, not 25 years, and then he says afterwards, Mordechai was machnia all the Jews to him. Ki isa basfasemes, and it says, the Sfasemes says, Shezeu shekasu shar Yehudim. The Shara Yehudim, the word Shara Yehudim, all the Jews became Shiraim to him. And Purim gives koyach to this compared concept of Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid, and therefore the rest of the pasuk says Kenini Baal Emot. And he says somewhere, I guess it's not in this piece that you're looking at right now, but he says somewhere that Yehudi is Sofei Tevos. Yehudi, Mordechai Yehudi. Shivisi is a Yud. Hashem is a Hey, L'negdi is a Yud, Tamid is a Dalid, Ki, the next word of the puzzle, community by Mot, is another Yud. So Yehudi is Sofei Tevos is the last letter in each of the words of Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid Ki. So that means, and Mimini Ba'alemot, Mordechai is Ishimini. So the concept of Mordechai is Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid. Constantly, a person is in that state of Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid. Now, Purim is the time, obviously, when we come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this time, and we have Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid. But it can be momentary. Purim doesn't have hashpah the entire year, so then yes, of course, Purim can be very high. But what happens after Purim is over? Purim can be a time of great hisavos, a great connection to Hashem. One of the early years in which I in one of the early years in which I got drunk on Purim on Purim nights is as going around, and I remember this very fondly as one of my great experiences in my life, speaking about the Hashgacha v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all about Hashgacha v'Hashem. It's a beautiful feeling to be drunk and tell you about the Hashgacha v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have to tell you that even though it's technically a problem, but the Maariv Motzoi Purim, when I'm a little bit tipsy and inebriated, is the highest Maariv of the entire year, which I experienced. So, yes, Purim can be very, very holy, and it's meant to be very holy, but it's meant to take the lesson of Shavisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid to the rest of the year. And if a person doesn't take Shavisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid to the rest of the year, if a person doesn't take the Tomid, missing the boat. And that's the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch, the way he begins and the way he ends Orach Chaim. It's not my voice, I think it's from Tzaddik, but it's certainly a very emistic, astounding idea. Orach Chaim, of course, means it's the cycle of life. And the Ramah begins with Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid. And the Ramah ends with going on the Purim of Purim Katan, the Purim which comes out in Adar, Rishon, where we make a little bit of Simcha. Tov Lev Mishte Tomid. Person has a good heart is always in a state of Mishte, so in a state of quote unquote inebriation. So and we know that there's a principle of no tzofim b'tchilasa. Since the Torah is cyclical, not linear, so the end leads to the beginning. That's always the case in laning. When we finish with Zos Baruch, we go meeting to Bereshis. In Daf Yomi, when we finish with Nida, we go to Brachos. And in Orach Chaim, when you finish the end, you go back to the beginning again. So there's a connection between Purim, even Purim Katan, and beginning of Hilchos Hamilchos Adam B'Boker, and the connection between the beginning of the Ramah and the end of the Ramah. The end of the Ramah says, Tov Lev Mishte Tomid. You have a good heart, you always stay in inebriation. What is Tov Lev? How do you get Tov Lev? Go to the next Ramah, back to the beginning. Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid. When you go to Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid, that is a Tov Lev. Versus Shivisi Hashem is a midah of Hishtavus. You can always be in a state of inebriation, always be on a high. You know, it's the Mishte Tomid. It can be Mishte Tomid. So Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid, Tov Lev Mishte Tomid. And that's the message which we take from Mordechai HaYehudi. Yehudi Sofei Tevos, Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid, Ki, Mordechai Ish Yemini, Yemini Ki Mini Baal Emot. Mordechai also Ish Gematria being Shaveh. And this is Emek Shavo, Emek HaMelech. So the Midah, there's much more we can say about this, but I'm way over time already. And the Midah of Purim, which we should take with us the rest of the year, as Chizuk, is that Midah of trying to accomplish as much as we can in this world, which all its pressures and difficulties, and its strains, and its distractions, and its really, really state of helling, of concealment. The Midah which can pull us through, and Midah which I have to work on myself, as I mentioned before, one of my great Yetzaharas, the Yetzahara of fame, and being acknowledged by people. So the Midah of Hishtavus is the Midah which we should take from Purim. The Hishtavus is based on Shivisi Hashem L'Negdi Tomid. We shall be Zoiche tomorrow, when Ikra Voida occurs during the Su'uda, to reach the level of perception about Kodesh Baruch Hu of Yira, and take that Levush Malchus. And when we Yotzei Mivnei HaMelech, when we leave Purim, we should have that Malchus of Yiras Hashem upon us in order to be Zoichet to Midah B'Hishtavus, in order to be Zoichet to Mishte Tomid. And everybody should have a Freilich in Purim. And because this Purim, I just want to end with a bit of Nigun, which is actually a Nigun I used to use when I most of it a little bit B'Spilus, which makes me feel it's appropriate for this time, because Purim is a time of having Simcha. So Ron asked if there'd be a webcam for my Suda. I'm not sure. If you want there to be one, I'll try and arrange it. But meantime, I just want to sing a short Nigun. It's a famous Nigun, but it has no words. Dai na 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 na, dai na 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 na, dai na 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 na. die, nine, 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 die, nine, 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 die, 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 nine, 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 da nine 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 da da nine 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 da nine 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 da da nine 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 see nine 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 after the Purim, and we shall be zeichet to with Milas and Madras in the day.